to do yoga. I know that, all the advertisements and Lululemon and Athleta and all these other, big brand names want you to have, the $120 yoga mat, the really expensive clothes and all this fancy stuff. I'm here to tell you, you don't need it. So if you're gonna be practicing at home, there are so many things around the house that you can use that will help your yoga practice and will help you get better. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is what I really recommend that you get is a yoga mat. One of the reasons I want you to have your own yoga mat instead of just doing yoga on the floor or on a rug or anything like that is because you're creating your own personal space for healing. And when I step onto the yoga mat, I get this feeling of, okay, this is where I am for the next however long my practice is going to be. I am in this space and I'm going to be present in this space. So while I don't want you to go out and I'm not asking you to go out and buy really expensive things, I think that having a yoga mat is going to be really beneficial for you for the mind and body practice of yoga. There's lots of yoga mats out there. I have a few, but I'm going to show you my two favorite. So the one that I am sitting on is kind of like your basic yoga mat. It's thin, and you can roll it up. It's sticky, not as in like tacky, but it's got enough friction so that you won't slide with your hands or feet as you're doing different poses. They're relatively inexpensive. I think one like this is probably not going to cost you or shouldn't cost you more than $30. And I see people getting rid of their yoga mats all the time online because they just don't practice or they have the intent to practice and they don't follow through. So you can look at like your neighborhood free spaces and stuff like that too to find a yoga mat if cost is something that's concerning to you. But I highly recommend get your own yoga mat, get your own space for it. It really is that mind-body connection. This yoga mat I have had for literally over 10 years. I absolutely love it. It is very, very thin. You can see how it's just kind of like folded up here. I travel with this yoga mat. I've taken it to hotel rooms. I've done outside yoga with it. You've probably seen me do a couple of my yoga classes with this mat while I'm traveling because it's just so easy to pack. So I can roll it, I can fold it. It can go anywhere. So the other thing I really like about it too is it's got this fabric weaved built into it. So not only does it help with so it helps with traction and that tackiness that I talked about before, but I can also bring it home and throw it in the wash. And then I have a clean mat, which is really beneficial, especially since I literally drag this mat all over the world. Let's go to so there's some like pros of these yoga mats. You can also fold it just like this, and now I have a little seat to sit on like for meditation, kind of like how I'm sitting now. I'm actually sitting on a cushion. I'll show you that in a minute though. There's other yoga mats that are much thicker. So I recommend those if you are going to practice on a hardwood floor and you need a little bit of more cushion. Maybe your knees hurt, or if you're going to press onto the floor, let me give you an example here. If you're going to drop your knee onto the ground, if that's painful for you, you may want to get a thicker yoga mat. If you are practicing on carpet in your house or you have a thicker rug, probably a thinner yoga mat is going to be better for you, especially the thinner it is, the easier that you have some more foot stability, especially when we get into balancing poses. So that's yoga mats. The next thing we're going to talk about is blocks. I've got two blocks here. It really doesn't matter, shape, color, whatever. But yoga blocks are really, really important, especially if you're new to yoga and especially if you don't have a lot of flexibility. So what blocks help do is bring this one. This is a weird shaped one, but these are the ones that I have. It brings the floor up to you. So if I'm in a lunge or if I'm in a forward fold and I can't touch the floor, I can put my hands on this block and it helps with extra stability, and it gives you just that much more room to get into the pose. If you're going to buy anything else besides a yoga mat, I recommend grabbing a block or two. They are really good, really helpful, and have been really important in my personal practice, and we will be using them in our yoga classes. So yoga blocks, very important. If you don't have blocks, I mean, when we're talking about this kind of stuff, be creative and think of what you have in your house. Do you have really thick textbooks or something like that? They're not going to be exactly the same, but again, if you're not going to invest into yoga blocks or any of the props I'm talking about, see if there's something in your house that's similar that you can use. All right, we're going to transition into foam rollers from here. So I have a bunch of different types of foam rollers, and we're not necessarily going to use them in our yoga class, but if you have a foam roller and not a block, you can use this as an extra prop. If it's on its side, it's a bit more stable. If you need support with your lower back, which I'll show you when we get into other classes, you can put this under your lower back. This one is smaller, obviously. It's got these little ridges on it, so good for muscle massage, really helpful. Usually because at the end of my yoga class anyways, I'm rolling out my back, so if you have it, why not use it, right? There's different sizes, different texture, different firmness to it. So this one is really firm, and it's longer. Again, I will get more into using foam rollers in different mobility classes, but I'm just showing you some different props that you may have around the house that may be useful for while we're practicing. So if you have these, grab them, use them. Another foam roller that I have, this one is really soft, and I like this one, especially when we're doing more calming yoga, or if I'm holding a pose for, a longer time and I just want to relax into it. All right, let's talk about a bolster and pillows. So this cushion that I'm actually sitting on is so useful. When I started yoga, I did not use one of these, and I was in so much pain thinking I had to sit there and let my hips just hurt and my back just hurt. I don't want you to have to go through that. So if you have one of these little seated bolsters, it's a meditation cushion, but if you have one of these at home, fantastic. This will help you. If you don't have one, I'm pretty sure you have pillows, and they can work the same way. So you can fold them, squish them, and use that to help in some of our poses instead of having the actual cushion. So again, up to you. If you want to spend the money, these are really nice. They kind of mold to your bottom as you're sitting there, and it just gives you a comfortable seat. Pillows, again, they can do the same thing. The other thing I want to show you, which is helpful with pillows, is as we hold different poses, things might get tough for us. So if I'm asking you to be in a forward fold, a pillow may help so that you can relax more if you don't have the mobility to actually complete the move. So we will get into that later, but as you're getting your yoga props and everything together, it's something to think about and have, for the side of your yoga mat for when you need it. Okay, let's see. All right, next, a strap. So this is actually a yoga strap. It's pretty long. We'll talk about different ways that we can use it. But if you have a yoga strap, fantastic, or a workout strap or anything like that. If you don't have one, grab a belt. It will work just the same. It might be a little shorter, but it'll still work for our purposes. And the belt will just help give you a little bit extra leverage that you need while you're doing different poses. So again, when we will do a forward fold, if you can't reach all the way forward, you can use the strap to, help with your flexibility here. So it's always good to have a strap nearby. If you don't have a strap, some of us have resistance bands. I really like TheraBand, and when we do our mobility classes, we will use the TheraBand. If you don't have one of these, it's just really light, stretchy, and it can work the same way as the strap. The other thing I like about it too is these are relatively cheap. I got this off of Amazon, but it comes in a roll. So you can stretch it out, and you know, as much as you need, just take scissors and cut it, and you have the length of a band that you need for, you know, whatever part of our practice that we're doing. So not necessary, but it's a good idea. I really have enjoyed adding TheraBand to my practice. Okay, blanket. I always have a blanket near me when I practice. So if we're doing a relaxation pose, or, you know, at the end of our classes when we are doing some mind-body work, it's always nice to have a blanket just to put over you. So psychologically, it's really comforting just to have some weight and pressure on the body as you're doing these relaxation poses. And then the other thing that is really helpful to have a blanket around is as a very thin cushion. So if we're doing some poses on the mat that we need a bit of extra cushioning under the knees or anything like that, you can just use that to help cushion your knees as you're doing whatever pose. So helpful to have around. You don't need any kind of special blanket. It is just whatever kind of blanket you have around the house. Okay, the last thing that I recommend having nearby during our class is a chair or a stool. And this is especially important if you struggle with balance and your flexibility just isn't quite there. So the helpful thing about a stool is you can use it for balance, whatever kind of pose that we're doing, and we'll get into these. So it's much sturdier than the blocks. The other thing too is, check this out. I can do yoga poses on it. So if we're in a warrior pose, which again, we'll learn later, but check this out. My feet are in the position and I can work on hip mobility and I'm not straining my hips. So a nice stool or solid chair will be really helpful for you. Well, that's it for our first session. I talked about some of the things that will really help you begin your yoga practice and make life so much easier for you. Let me know what you think. You can go ahead and write some comments below. I will absolutely answer them. If you have questions, I'm sure others have questions, so please don't be shy and put them down there. Thank you so much for tuning in to your first class, and I am looking forward to being with you on your yoga journey. Thanks, Blue Team. Bye.